11:02 on May 4th, 2020. Nat?
May the 4th be with you.
I'm
just going to lead with that. Yeah. All right. So, the first, I didn't have a lot new, but I figured some of the stuff that we talked about in the last meeting could be revisited. I have number 2. I'll start with number 2 because I have Paul Frazier called in, and he has some more information on that. So number 2 is a follow-up on the Shutters Creek situation. Specifically, I think discussions regarding coordination between the Department of Corrections and public health to ensure that we don't end up in a situation like what we ended up in last week, where someone was released into the county without us knowing about it, who was infected. So, Paul, I think it would be good for you to give an update on maybe where you're at to the extent you can. If I still have Paul. Paul?
There I am. I was on mute.
Oh.
Okay.
Good to know you're here.
All right. What I did is, over the weekend, I put together a draft plan. It's about 3 pages long. I emailed it to Nat and also to Coos County Public Health, Community Corrections, and I also sent it to the General Counsel at the Department of Corrections. I got feedback from Ray Krim this morning, and he said that they didn't have any, it looked okay to them. And then the Health Department, Kathy Cooley, sent me a couple of, it was more questions than there were perhaps changes to the document. And then I got a call from, after the 9 o'clock call this morning, I got a phone call from Jeff Van Valkenburg, who is the General Counsel for the Department of Corrections. And I also discussed with him if he knew anything about what Bob had raised this morning, and Melissa had raised this morning about OHA coming down tomorrow to be at the commissioners' meeting. Let me first talk about the agreement, then I'll talk about what he had to say about OHA and DOC coming down. Number one, I think he has sent that the document up the chain to the director of Department of Corrections and also to the head of their medical division there. Unfortunately, the director is out today, and the medical director will not be back in until Wednesday. He feels that the majority of the document is fine. He did have a couple of questions. One question had to do with, there's part in there that community corrections, in case you didn't aware, even if we didn't have the COVID crisis, it gets about a 120-day notice on any inmate that's going to be released back into the county of conviction. So Community Corrections has a list of all the people that are going to be released in the next 120 days from any of the prisons. I took that list, they gave it to me the other day, I took that list and then I whittled it down through the end of June to those 4 institutions, or actually 5, where there are COVID cases. 4 where there have either been employees or prisoners, I should say adults in custody, who have been tested and found to have the virus. I added Coffee Creek to the list because that is where the majority of the adults in custody who have been tested or positive for the virus are being sent for treatment. There are no positive cases in the general population of the prison or with staff, but I put them on the list. So there's basically 5 institutions on the list. The part of the plan is that prior to the prisoner's release, the Department of Corrections would allow the local health authority to have access to the adult in custody so that they could counsel with this person in terms of, okay, this is what we'd like you to do when you come out. We'd like you to quarantine or whatever that they deem is appropriate given the particular circumstances of that particular adult. And that the Department of Corrections would allow that access and would assist in facilitating that access. The question the general counsel raised about that, while he indicated in principle he didn't think that was a bad idea, he was wondering and he was asking for input from the Department of Corrections on just exactly how much of an extra workload would that entail and if it was feasible for them to do it. I don't know where that discussion is going to go, but I think the Department of Corrections is, I'm just espousing my personal opinion here. I don't think that's a deal breaker. I think that will go through. The other question they had I had put in there that if any of the adults in custody had actually tested positive, then that the prison would directly communicate with the local public health authority that this person is coming up for release on X day and has tested positive. Again, in principle, I don't think General Counsel had a problem with it, but he also wanted to make sure that legally the Department of Corrections could communicate directly those results. It may be that they'll have to communicate it to the Oregon Health Authority first, and then the Oregon Health Authority gives it to the local health authority. But I think we're going to get there. That we're going to know about these people before they come out, whether they've been exposed or whether they've tested positive, and then we can take appropriate action once they're released or headed for Coos County. So that's the plan. And given what I've heard is I don't think there's a problem in principle. It's just the practicalities need to be worked out. In regards to them coming down and talking, as I mentioned before, there's some concern about the lawsuit, about them speaking publicly, but I think what's going to happen is I think they are going to come and speak. However, the counsel that at least the general counsel is giving to his client, which would be the Department of Corrections, is that they wait until we've got this plan ironed out so that they can come down and have something to talk about and explain, this is how we're going to address the issues. So I do not see them coming down this week. If we can get this ironed out, the plan ironed out by the end of the week, maybe something next week. But they certainly are wanting to wait until we get this plan that I proposed ironed out. Questions?
Thank you. Questions?
No questions?
I mean, I don't have any patience for them waiting until they're ready. We've waited for them to be ready. It's been 3 weeks so far. I think they need to come down now. I think there's plenty of questions that they can answer without even having a plan in place, frankly. So that's my opinion. And I know you're just the messenger, so I appreciate that.
They're just stalling, it seems like. Just keep putting this off.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your work on that, Paul. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
Oh, no problem. I'll keep pushing, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
All right.
We appreciate that.
It's been very helpful. Okay, so moving on to what I put on here is the first one, which is just revisiting sort of the general discussion that we've been having, I think, in every meeting in the last week or two, which is discussion regarding phased reopenings of businesses and activities in Coos County. There's one particular, and parks as well, and there's one particular issue that came up with regards to parks, which is sort of a secondary issue, but I'll mention it first because it came up this morning, which is that individuals, and this could be a broader issue, but the particular circumstances, individuals are accessing the Powers Park Pond via the back route to make some access to it, but there is a disability or handicap access if you actually go to the park, but there isn't if you come in the back way. And so there's been sort of, we'll call it complaints regarding the fact that that access is no longer available, but yet people who can manage to walk in the back way are able to access it, and sort of suggesting that that's a bit inequitable, that people who can walk in on foot can utilize that resource, but we're telling people who would have to park there to access it that they can't do that. So that's a particular issue that's come up with regard to parks.
This is John. I would think we should be able to accommodate. It's just one fella in Powers that has complained. Would there be any reason that we couldn't accommodate him and just let him check with the park with park personnel and let's have them let him in?
Is there any reason why we can't reopen day use at Powers? I mean, I don't think they're getting a lot of people from outside the state or even outside the area.
Not that I know of. We could.
I mean, because it could be that we have one guy that's complained, but you probably have 10 other people that are in the same situation at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got multiple texts, emails about using the boat ramp there at Riley. They just drive in and park and fish off the boat ramp.
Let's not deal with Riley yet. Let's deal directly with Powers first.
I got that, but there's calls about using the parks on, different parks all over the place.
I know. Yeah, it is a tough one.
My concern is there's no way to control day use. If we can control camping by saying, it's all done by reservation, and it's controlled by the number of slots that are available. But day use, you're not. I think it would be particularly troublesome at Riley. I just see being overwhelmed out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so but I don't know about Powers.
Just really quickly here, two things. One is if we do reopen day use, under the executive order, we need to be putting up some signage with regard to maintaining social distancing, which is a simple matter. And then as far as restricting people, just as an idea, it seems to me that it might be possible to restrict how many people can park, restrict where they park, how they park, just throwing that out there as a way to, if you're at Riley, if you reduce it to half its normal capacity as far as where you allow people to park, that might resolve some of the problem.
I don't know. Then you get into sanitation issues with the restrooms. You have no revenue coming in to offset the work that they'd have to do. I'm not wild about day use. I'd rather make an exception, let this fella come in and just. It hasn't been an issue to my knowledge. Our parks aren't used a lot for just day use.
I will say that if we let this individual in, then for that park, at least for that park, it should be a general policy that anyone who has a handicap parking verification can go in and use it as opposed to individual. So
yeah, that's acceptable. But I'm really not for opening them up for. I don't know what we get into if they're open for day use.
Well, actually, you're talking about revenue. I'm all for opening up our parks, all parks, for RV.
talk about that in a minute. Let's get this guy taken care of first.
Well,
So I'm fine with having a policy that says if somebody can show a disabled placard from their vehicle, then we will allow them to park and access
Yeah.
from there.
I haven't been able to get a hold of anyone at Parks yet this morning. Tammy's sick. Craig normally doesn't come straight to the office, goes to the field, and John has a medical appointment today. So I assume we can make that work. I'd be more comfortable if we are all comfortable with that. Give me a chance to hear from Parks and make sure that they communicate that. Or we could call it, that they communicate that to the Powers people, the Powers Park.
That's fine with me too. Do you need a vote?
I don't need a vote.
Do you need a vote, Bob?
No,
I just want us to be aware.
Okay.
the disabled fine, but John's going to bring up my question here in a little bit anyway about RV.
Okay,
So I'm
let's
fine
move on to
with
the next. Me too.
Now to Parks in general.
Yes, sir.
Short story long. Last Friday from 1 to 2:30, the governor's office through Jason Miner and Catherine, can't think of her last name, as well as State Parks under the director, Lisa, what's her last name? Melissa, do you remember? Anyway, had a meeting regarding camping at Parks. And the tone was that it was kind of positive. And one question had to do with sanitation of restroom facilities. A lot of people were, willing to answer that by simply having people limit it to just RV and camping trailer people that could have their own. The governor wanted those. She said that if we're going to open them, we need to open them so that you don't have to own an RV or a camper trailer to use our parks. And so with that in mind, Parks checked with the state of Washington, and they've made their parks open and simply have posted the restroom facilities and shower facilities with a sign that says these facilities not sanitized, and bring your own sanitation and toilet paper and all that stuff. Everyone kind of liked that idea, but the governor's office wasn't sure that the Oregon Health Plan or Oregon Health Authority would approve. So they're going to check with them early this week and let us know. During the course of that meeting, there were some weigh-in by the Oregon Department of Forestry and by the U.S. Forest Service, both of whom complained about illegal camping in the forests they manage, and defecation and whatever goes along with camping without facilities in the woods. And so to that end, I think they were suggesting that it would be nice to have the parks open. So I left that meeting at 2:30, thinking that I'd probably hear today or tomorrow from the governor's office and from state parks about whether Oregon Health Authority was comfortable with less than complete sanitation of the restroom facilities. That evening, that was Friday last week, about 8 o'clock, I had a call from Regional Solutions, and they said that they were very concerned about what was said during the course of the meeting in the afternoon, that they did not think and I think this comes from state, was it a state, Oregon Solutions, as part of the governor's office, that they didn't think that was appropriate. And he cautioned us about opening the campgrounds because, according to his bosses, the governor's order denying camping has not been lifted. So that's where we are. He talked about then Douglas County and said he didn't think that what they did was appropriate. It was certainly not in keeping with the governor's order that there be no camping. And just because you're camping you're using a camping facility in your RV doesn't mean that it's not a camping facility. It doesn't automatically make it an RV park, which under their interpretation is more for people that stay a long time, either vacation for months at a time or live year-round in an RV park. And that what Douglas County did was not appropriate. So,
Except the governor hasn't shut them down either.
not yet.
Nope.
So that's, and maybe she won't. I don't know. So that's where we are, and we can force the issue, I suppose, or we can wait and hear from the governor tomorrow and let the governor's staff make up their mind what they're going to do and let us know, hopefully sooner rather than later. More than likely, causing us to shove opening date back from the 8th to the 15th. Although we could have a very quiet opening on the 8th and just have it I would think the first week that we do anything, it should be just for county citizens, trying to be sensitive to the hue and cry we heard about opening motels. Don't want to go through that again unnecessarily.
Good luck.
Why?
I did get a voicemail from a local business who was in favor of opening RVs. They had 25 employees, and they were very grateful for opening for the RV/motels.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically RVs.
Mm-hmm. So that's where we are, or where I am on parks, and I don't have any good answer. We can go ahead and open it up, but I think we'd be inviting adverse reaction from the state. I don't know what that would be, or we could wait a couple of days and take a look at it Wednesday.
We're supposed to have a call from the governor tomorrow, or be on a call?
We do. It came in while we were on this call, I believe. 4 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, did they have? I know that part. I didn't have any call-in details about what phone number and all that stuff, though.
The invite came in. Got it.
Okay. Well,
Unless they just specifically left you off. I'll look. What I told them they should do, but they might not have listened.
Probably could.
All right.
I'm clearly disappointed. I was looking forward to a quiet opening of our parks on Friday, but to me that's up in the air right now, unless the board thinks otherwise.
No, I think that's where we're at. But we can discuss it on Wednesday again.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll have more information then, I hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully by tomorrow. But so far they haven't done anything to stop Douglas County from doing it.
No.
Yeah.
No, we haven't. At least that I know of.
Me either. And I got a text into Commissioner Freeman about it, so I haven't received it back yet. So we'll hopefully by today, so we have our meeting on Wednesday, we will know. Of course, we're having a board meeting tomorrow, aren't we?
Right.
Yes.
We do, yeah.
We could discuss it tomorrow, too, if we get information from the governor this afternoon and information from Commissioner Freeman.
Yeah, unlikely we'll hear from the governor this afternoon.
It's tomorrow afternoon, May the 5th.
Oh, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, see. Okay. Not moving real fast, are we? It's frustrating for me. I mean, it seems like things take forever. The people are out of work, you know, and government seems like it's dragging their feet.
Well, it's going to be very difficult for us to run our parks department eventually without some revenue. So
Yeah, I mean,
Agreed.
it's important.
try and hold next year's budget together. I mean, the 21-22 budget.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's extremely difficult.
All right. Do we have anything else, Matt?
Nothing else.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Commissioners, everybody's good? Okay.
Yep.
We'll talk to all of you tomorrow morning then.
All righty. Thanks.
Good.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.